Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe right now. It really goes a long way for everybody who's already subscribed around the world. Make sure to like this video and also make sure to comment for that YouTube algorithm. Today, I got a pretty cool guest. We got Carlos Arévalo from Chicano Batman. How you doing today, Carlos?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, so talk to me about your musical journey. When did it all kick off? What was some music you were listening to, growing up here in California?
Yeah, so I've always been obsessed with music as long as I can remember. I remember being a little boy and watching. I grew up in the '90s, early 2000s as a student of public school, and I remember just loving artists like uh Red Hot Chili Peppers when I was a little kid. I remember Under the Bridge, the song, the music video. I remember Dr. Dre, Nothing But a G Thing. I just remember that whole MTV era of just like all styles of music were being played at all times and it was all good. And I just remember just always being attracted to music and sound. And I remember when I was like in fifth grade, I had a friend who was very tapped into music, and he showed me like Weezer's first album when it came out, and because he had an older brother that was hip, and he showed me Green Day's Dookie, and I just remember really being obsessed with like rock music, like because of that. And at some point in like middle school, it was uncool to be like person of color and like rock music. You were not hip where I lived. I grew up in Rialto, California, outside of Los Angeles, an hour east, and it was like if you're brown, you're supposed to listen to hip hop or R&B. And I don't know if it was because of peer pressure, I kind of like ended up listening to music like that, but I think also just because I liked all music, and maybe it was I had a friend that got me into it, but I went down a whole rabbit hole of just being obsessed with hip hop and R&B, like 1998 we're talking about, and just having the same love for that music as I did for like say Red Hot Chili Peppers earlier. And then at some point I became a guitar player when I was in high school. And there's not a lot of guitar in hip hop unless you're listening to the Roots, or some Outcasts. Um, and so I started listening to a lot of rock music, and eventually I found out about bands like Television, At the Drive-In. I saw At the Drive-In on David Letterman one night. Didn't know who they were, and I just stood up like on a Friday night, saw the musical guests and watched the show, and I was like, wow, those guys look like me. I've never seen brown people on TV before playing music that's not like Latin, you know? And I thought it was so cool and so in line with, who I was as a person, just trying to be an individual and not pay attention to genres or classifications. And it was very inspiring. I knew I had to like form a band after seeing that, and I did. And that got me just hooked on playing live music with other people. Ended up joining and starting many bands, and eventually I was asked to join Chicano Batman in 2011 because I knew Bardo for many years before. He was a fan of my one of my bands that I used to have, and we kept in touch, and the opportunity came to join them, and I was really excited because I thought they were the best band in LA.
Let's go back to your the beginning of why did you pick up the guitar? Who inspired you? Was there like a guitarist, or what made you pick up the guitar and not another instrument?
So initially, I wanted to be like a DJ, like a producer, like do like beats. And so when I turned 15, I'd saved up like $250 to buy like a DJ system package, like a mixer and two turntables. Like I said, this is coming off of me being obsessed with hip hop, R&B, like in middle school and early high school days. And I went to Guitar Center with my dad, and I went to go pick out the system that I saw like on sale, and it was no longer on sale. It was like $300. So I was like $50 short. So then all I could afford was I looked to like my left, and there was like a Squire Stratocaster and an amp combo for like $250, which is what I had. And I thought back to, I always had wanted to play guitar before I got into hip hop and R&B like heavily. And I thought, well, maybe this is my sign to play guitar. So I bought the guitar, and just became hooked. And I just remember locking myself in my room, buying some guitar books and magazines, and just teaching myself to play. I didn't have a teacher, and so I just taught myself to play, and then that just opened up, my brain to listening to musicians like Radiohead, at the drive-in. Also, just stuff that's not guitar based, but just stuff that's very unique and different at the time. Bjork Homogenics record had come out recently. Yeah, and so that just kept, snowballing into me finding about other artists, like I said, like Television, Tom Verlaine, The Strokes, all those groups were coming out. The White Stripes were blowing up, and all guitar based. And so it was a great time to be, a guitar player. Just there's so much inspiration left and right in popular music.
Do you agree with the Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine? How he talks about how being self-taught, really influenced him later on when he became a professional musician. Do you think that also influenced you, or kind of shaped you as your journey has gone on, and you've recorded now a bunch of music?
I think so, because I wasn't taught like the standards that a lot of guitar players are taught, and for better or worse, I think that just makes me sound like myself. And there's a lot of guitar players that are great, technically talented, fluid, and amazing, and they get younger and younger as time goes on because of technology. Um, and But I never was a part of that. I always what resonated with me were artists that were more less flashy and more just trying to make a good melody, something memorable. And that's always been who I've been as a player and as a soloist. And yeah, I think because I didn't wasn't taught the right way to do everything, I created my own way, and for that reason, I think I have my own sound.
So, talk to me about growing up in the Inland Empire. How did that shape you later as a musician? That's of course like about an hour or so from LA. For people that aren't aware of the California geography, but how did that kind of shape you as a person growing up, or later on in your music?
Yeah, so there was nothing to do out there, at the time. This is like pre-Instagram, pre-social media, pre-YouTube. So you had like, what were your options? Sports, gangs, music. That was it. So I did play sports, but when I got into music, I just quit sports. I was like, I don't have time to waste. I want to like dedicate everything to this art form of music and becoming a better musician and songwriter. And yeah, luckily I found some kindred spirits out there. I had some good friends that also got the bug of being like creative people, and just surrounded myself with them. And I remember sorry, that's my kids my kids' toys going off.
Oh.
I remember starting a band with this singer named Rochelle Martin, and she was into like a lot of cool music, and I met her in high school and in my first couple years of college. We got to know each other better, and she had younger brothers, and they were Tony Martin and Kevin Martin, and they play in the band Brain Story now. It was just like this circle of people that found each other organically because of music and being kind of outcasts with our taste in music. We weren't the popular kids. Um, we weren't listening to what everybody else was listening to. I didn't know many people that listened to Radiohead or Bjork in high school or at the drive-in. Like everybody was listening to Jay-Z, which I like Jay-Z too, but um it was just the people that were different found each other somehow. We just like a magnet. And yeah, it informed who I was. I was learning from them, they were learning from me, and all together we were just learning and trying to become better musicians.
So, were you playing in bands even back then, like when you were a teenager, or when did the whole kind of like real like pro band kind of story start for you?
I mean, it was just like local band, like, garage band stuff. Like when I was 17, had like a little punk band. And then I started getting really serious with the band stuff. Like when I was in college, just started like, writing a lot of music and recording it and working with uh, really good musicians and just trying to make a name for yourself, and that would lead to getting asked to play certain places. And yeah, just probably as when I was 17 is when I really got like the bug to like really try and be in a band that makes people feel something. and that's unique.
So were you here in LA when you got asked to join Chicano Batman? Did you move down here then to LA?
I was living in Upland, California. I
Okay.
was going to Cal Poly Pomona. I was getting my master's degree, and I was asked to join Chicano Batman, and I would just be the one from the IE making the drive to like Venice to play shows like at the Del
Wow.
Monte Speakeasy. Um, and it was great, eventually, because we were playing so much in LA and elsewhere, I moved to LA, and I lived there for 5, 7 years. But my family's from Los Angeles. My mom and dad, they met in LA. My dad went to Hollywood High. He's Salvadoran immigrant. And my mom is Chicana. She grew up in Compton and Boyle Heights. So my roots are from Los Angeles, So I would always go there and we would visit grandparents and family, and I knew my way around town. But I lived in Rialto until and the Inland Empire until I was like 27. Is when I lived in LA for many, many years.
So talk to me about, the challenges of, starting a band in, the 21st century. Well, being in a band and trying to kind of make it, of course, it's not the same music industry of say, 20, 30 years ago. Talk to me a little bit about those challenges you were facing, as a band that was just trying to make a name for themselves back in the 2010s.
Honestly, I don't see it as challenges. I'd say like technology was like changing really quickly. Like you had the advent of YouTube at this time. Social media was just starting out, like I think like 4 years after the band was a band, like Instagram started in 2012. So we didn't have to worry about like trying to like sell yourself as like this, influencer model that a lot of people use today, for better or worse. It was just really about make good songs, be a good band, go out and play and like win fans over, get fans. And that's what we did. So we grew like organically, like old school. And I think also because of, you know, um, websites like Bandcamp, which were starting out, and MySpace, like for the first time, you had this opportunity to present your music where beforehand, like you didn't have that chance to like present your music to a mass audience unless you were signed to a label. We were very DIY, and it definitely helped us in that regard. The burgeoning technology. And yeah, so we just, like I said, we made our own records, we recorded them, we put them out on ourselves, we pressed on our own, label, we pressed our own vinyl, and we just went out there and booked shows and played them. And when people showed up, it was great. And when we came back to that same city the next time, even more people were there because their friends had told them about the first show, and we just kept doing that. And eventually that spread to the Southwest, and then eventually we got asked to play Coachella as an unsigned, Latino group, which was unheard of at the time in 2015, and got asked to play with Jack White, and that really kickstarted like us as like professional band with like a label and with booking agents and managers.
So talking about how, like, of course, now with music, it's all gone to streaming, and a lot of people don't want to really buy music. That must be a difficult, or has been, of course, difficult for you guys. Say in the last 10, 15 years, you guys have been playing, correct?
Yeah, I think the streaming thing has really gotten like, kind of like terrible in terms of how it pays out artists like the last 3 or 4 years, with, Spotify really being like in charge of all of that. But beforehand, we would sell a lot of vinyl. I mean, we still sell really good vinyl numbers. And I think that's because we presented that as part of our culture as a band was like we press records, and we gained a following who also liked vinyl and collecting records. And so a lot of our fans buy records, and definitely buying records and merch is like the best way to support a group nowadays. Streaming is cool. It's awesome that it definitely helps get your music out there and people all over the world can hear it that maybe didn't have access before. But definitely like, it does not pay very well. And so, bands go on the road and sell merch, and rely on syncs, which are, for those people that don't understand what that is licensing your music to, other types of creative people, or, like in movies, film, TV shows. I'm sorry that my kids' toys keep going up. Yeah, so you rely on that for income, and that's just kind of become like a standard thing. Like if you want to survive, those are the avenues you got to take.
Talking about the new album, Notebook Fantasy, which of course came out. Talk to me about how the process behind that and how you're feeling about it.
Yeah, so the process started in 2023. Sorry, 2022 in the fall. We started like really getting together and sharing with each other our demos and songs that we had compiled collectively and individually. And we hired John Congleton to come in and produce the record. He's worked with St. Vincent, Erykah Badu, Explosions in the Sky, the new Mannequin Pussy record he put out. He worked on that. And it was a great time working with him. You know, he's very talented, has great opinions, and is very objective too, though, and can really look out for like, you know, the song and the vision of the band. And it was great working with him. He mixed the record, he engineered it, he did it all himself, with some assistance by other engineers. But for the most part, you know, he's a one-man shop and very, very talented. And the record was great because this time we each kind of just gave each other, we each gave each other support on letting each other kind of be the director and the primary visionary for the songs we brought in. So in the past, the band would work like a very band-like in terms of somebody would bring in a song and then everybody would put their stamp on it for better or worse, you know? And sometimes that would create, you know, contention and unhappiness, like, oh, my song, you know, turned out a different way than I wanted it to turn out, you know. Um, and sometimes that was great, you know, sometimes that's what the song needed, you know, but sometimes feelings were hurt. So this time it was like, all right, let's support each other. I'll bring in some songs. Eduardo's going to bring in some songs. Bardo's going to bring in some songs. And we're going to support each other's vision and just see the song to where it needs to be. And that's what we did. And I think that's why this record has a lot of diverse sounds and different types of songwriting that maybe if doesn't fit with the Spotify, you know, generation where, you know, one song will like encapsulate what the album is like. I think our record is like a film. You have to put it on from beginning to end to get the context and understand the whole statement, the breadth of the work.
So with this new record, is there any concept or can people kind of, they haven't heard the album? What can they kind of, is it something different than maybe you guys have recorded before? Or talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this record is the first time we've been to like a very we've worked in professional studios all along, but this is the first time we've worked like in a historical studio. Sunset Sound is where we made a majority of the tracking, recorded a majority of the tracking. And for people that don't know, that's where like Van Halen, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Prince have worked out of. A lot of timeless records from the 70s, 80s. I think John Lennon worked out of there in the 70s at some point. And it just has this mixing desk console that is just like, you know, timeless, has been used on so many records and is like a big hi-fi sound. And this record was all about clarity, transparency, dynamics, and having a big, clean sound. Whereas before, you know, as DIY group, we would work on records ourselves and had like an ear and you know, an affection for like lo-fi sounding records, fuzzy sounding records. That was always like our comfort zone. And it was John Congleton who was like, let's take you out of that comfort zone and let's just try to be like, you know, let's let the music shine and not let the production be part of the songwriting. Let's make the song sound great, making it clear. And that's what we did on this record. And it was a great time we had.
Did you guys record this on tape then?
This was not recorded on tape. We
Okay.
wanted to record it on tape. So the last two records were recorded on tape, Freedom is Free and Invisible People. This time we just didn't do it. I don't think they had a working tape machine at Sunset
Okay.
Sound. A lot of those studios don't use them for the most part. It's more of like a lo-fi community thing, to be honest. But yeah, we just went, you know, like I said, clarity, high fidelity. It's gonna mean digital, you know,
Hmm.
digital all the way. And so that's what we did, and that was the first as well. You know, take like again talking about getting out of our comfort zone. John Congleton's like, we're recording digital, you know, let's just go with it. And you know, that's how most records are made today. And yeah, we're really happy with it.
So you guys have a big show coming up later this month in the Forum. Did you go to the Forum a lot growing up? Is that like a special place for you?
So the first time I went to the Forum, I was like 17, 18. It was in the early 2000s. And I remember just being a broke college student, and my friend Ricardo Perez, he called me one day and he was like, "Hey, do you want to go see the Chili Peppers are playing the Forum? My brother's friend like canceled on him. I'm gonna go with him and his wife. They have an extra ticket. Do you want to go? It's $20." And I remember just being like, man, $20, a lot of money. I don't have any money, you know. But I scrounged up $20, and I remember we went, and just we were at the very top, and it was magical. It was like electrifying. I remember the talk. Sorry, not talking. It's the Flaming Lips. Were the opening band. And I remember they were incredible. They were just blowing up again with their Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots record. And I just remember it was such a great show. It was just like incredible. It was electrifying. I later saw, after they renovated the Forum, I later saw Anderson .Paak there. I saw Smashing Pumpkins there. Coincidentally, I got invited to see the Chili Peppers there a couple months ago from the people from the Forum because they were playing like a makeup show, and it was just like a full circle moment, seeing these bands that I grew up with, and now we're gonna be playing the same stage. It's pretty surreal.
Of course, is this the biggest band, the biggest show the band has done? You would say here in LA coming up.
Yeah, definitely our biggest headlining show where it's our show only. We last played the Hollywood Bowl in August last year, and that was a more of a co-headlining, more of kind of us supporting Portugal the Man's show there. So this is the first time since we played 2 nights at the Shrine Auditorium, which was each of those nights was like 5,000 people. Um, this is the first time since then, since 2021, that we're headlining like our own proper venue in LA. And so we're really excited to be back and just give the people a long set of our music that they know and love.
So what else is coming up for Chicano Batman for the rest of this year or early next year? If you have any plans you could share to the fans.
Yeah, so right now we gotta we're going to Europe. We're gonna be in Mexico, play some dates in Mexico. There's talks of possibly recording new music very soon. We'll see. So sorry about all this. These
No, it's
toys
all
are
right.
like
I
have
can't even
money in
hear it,
them.
so that's all right.
Oh, okay, cool. I can't,
Yeah,
it like breaks my
yeah.
concentration. What else? Yeah, talks of recording. And yeah, and then we'll see where that takes us. I think in the fall there's talks of also hitting up cities that we didn't touch on this tour. So maybe be on the lookout for some extra shows. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Carlos, for coming on the show today. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Take care and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe to the channel.
Peace.